Hi, I'm Dr. Kelly Frindell. Thank you so much for joining me today for this brief video on the Skills for Success system. This video training is designed for parents who want to help their children obtain top scores on entrance exams to gain admission to the school of their dreams, and for parents who are ready to take action to help their child succeed. The test prep process can be challenging and at times quite frustrating. The tests cover a significant amount of content, and the material can be difficult for students to master. It's easy to get overwhelmed with the sheer amount of material to focus on. But what if it didn't have to be that way? Think about this. What if your child actually enjoyed preparing for the test? What if they felt empowered to study and learn instead of feeling defeated? What if they develop test-taking skills that will help them now and in the future? It might sound like a pipe dream, but it can be your reality too. These are some of the reviews I've received from working with families just like yours. I worked with Ashley's 5th grade and 8th grade children, and both were accepted into the same exclusive private school at the same time. Jody and Natalie were also thrilled when their 5th graders were accepted into highly competitive schools during an intense admissions year. Before we start, let's make an agreement. I promise to show you how to help your child ace their test, and you promise to take action by sharing this information with your child and by learning more about how an individualized plan can help your child succeed. Here is what you will be learning during this brief training: how to identify your child's gaps and strengths in their knowledge base, how to focus on key areas of weakness instead of trying to learn everything, how to evaluate progress and use that information to keep moving ahead. If you are new to the test prep process, you might be wondering why your child can't just show up to take the test on test day since they go to a good school. Or you might be wondering why you can't just hand a test prep book to your child and have them study it, or why your child would need help with this process. Here's why these problems exist, though. The admissions process is extremely competitive and has become even more so in the past few years. COVID has changed the educational landscape everywhere, and scores that would have been high enough in the past suddenly might not be enough. Also, other students taking the test will have spent extensive time preparing for it, which puts your child at a significant disadvantage if they have not. Sometimes parents try to get around that by just handing a study book to their child, but I can also tell you from experience, this rarely works out either. For one, test prep books are gigantic, often ranging from 500 to 1,000 pages. Part of the reason they're so long is that they are packed full of content for every possible student. And the thing about test prep is, not all material is intended for every student. There are some things that your child simply does not need to spend time on, but there's no way for them to be able to correctly identify this. What usually happens is that the giant book either ends up being opened once and then discarded, or it is promptly lost under the bed. It can be tempting just to ask your child to study on their own, but I can also guarantee that they are almost certainly not going to do it. Children taking these tests often lack the knowledge of how to study, along with not knowing what to study, because it's a skill they haven't really learned in school yet. And due to their age and developmental level, many children taking these tests don't understand the importance of them. They just can't see the bigger picture yet of what opportunities are available to them with admissions to a top school. And how do I know all this? I've been teaching test prep since 2001. In that time, I have worked with hundreds of students of varying abilities to help them achieve top scores on these tests. I know these tests inside and out, and I know what works. More importantly, I also know what doesn't work. Test prep is challenging, full stop. But it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be a struggle. Over my more than 20 years of test prep experience, I have developed a 3-pronged approach to test prep called the Skills for Success system. The Skills for Success system is built on 3 main pillars to help your child earn top scores: assessment, acceleration, and evaluation. If you're serious about helping your child ace their test, make sure you have a pen and paper nearby so you can write this down. The first pillar of the Skills for Success system is assessment. I've found that most students do not receive frequent assessment at school. They may take a standardized grade level test once or twice a year, but those results don't always tell you what your child's real strengths and weaknesses are. As I mentioned earlier, the amount of test prep material to learn is enormous. Trying to help your child learn it while not actually knowing where they are starting from is kind of like trying to finish building an airplane while you are simultaneously trying to fly it. What your child really needs is a clear starting point. Do you know which math skills they haven't learned or have forgotten? What is their vocabulary level? What sections will be easiest to improve scores on? And which ones will be the hardest? In my programs, assessment is one of the most important steps in the entire process. Before I begin working with the student, I have an hour-long consultation with the entire family. During this consultation, I learn about the student's academic history, known strengths and weaknesses, and any previous test scores. We also discuss any history of test anxiety or the potential need for accommodation. We discuss the student's goals and schools of interest and use all of this information to pick the proper test and the right timeline for studying. After this meeting, I always have the student complete a full-length official practice test. The scores on this practice test provide invaluable information about the precise areas of strengths and weaknesses. This allows me to customize a prep plan. Taking a practice test is also a good experience for the student to see what the process is like, and often serves as a motivation for the preparation process. Once the assessment phase is complete, we move to the acceleration phase. This is where many students get bogged down because they are trying to learn everything. This is a surefire path to frustration, boredom, and burnout. There is likely to be material on the test that isn't intended for your child, which means they really don't have to know how to do everything. Not all questions are intended for every student. In the acceleration phase, your child will only be working on materials appropriate to their grade level and intellectual development, improving weak skills, and spending time improving their competencies to help pick up, quote, easy points. This is where working with an individual tutor provides perhaps the biggest benefit. I can customize everything to your child. For example, I know that there are certain types of problems that are almost never worth spending time on because they rarely occur, or because they are outside of most students' skill sets or developmental level. Once I understand where a student is, I can customize both their individual lessons and their weekly homework, which includes flashcards, worksheets, and practice problem sets. The third pillar of the Skills for Success system is evaluation. This piece is often the most overlooked. A common problem I see with students who try to prepare on their own is that they will work through problem sets or practice tests, but then that's it. They don't check their answers, they don't figure out how to do the problems they missed, and they don't ever see the patterns. This is a crucial mistake because repetition and practice without feedback is essentially useless. In my programs, I address this in a number of ways. For instance, I have students keep a log of the homework that they complete in between each session, and there's space for them to note the topics that they had difficulty with. We start each individual session by going over the homework material that caused difficulty and note if there are any patterns. I can then use this information to continue tailoring the individual program. I also have my students complete several more practice tests during the program, which provides immediate feedback about what we still need to be focusing on. Using this information keeps us from having to fly blind, since I always know where a student is at any given point in time. So, to quickly recap, the 3 pillars of the Skills for Success system are assessment of the student's skills to create a plan, acceleration of the student's skills by focusing only on what's important, and evaluation throughout the process to provide a continuous feedback loop. This process works. I've successfully used it with hundreds of families just like yours, and just like Margot's. I've worked with 3 of Margot's children over many years. Her older daughter, whom I helped prepare for the SSAT many years ago, is about to attend medical school. Her middle son is successfully in college, and her younger daughter was recently accepted into her top boarding school choice. And congrats, you have made it to the end of this training. If you've made it this far, your child's success on their test is clearly important to you. Let's sit down together and make a roadmap for how your child can succeed. If it looks like one of my programs might be a good fit for your family, we can also talk about what it would look like to work together. Ultimately in life, there are always 3 choices of how to approach something. You can rely on guesswork and what seems right. You can hope that hard work is enough to get by, or you can use a proven framework for success. My Skills for Success system is that framework, and it works. If you are interested in speaking with me about the Skills for Success system, please schedule a free, no-obligation call with me by clicking the calendar below. I look forward to speaking with you soon.